went to AWA, do you have any memories or thoughts on Verne?
On Verne?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Any good story? Any good Verne
I
stories?
have an excellent story.
Okay.
And man, I remember that, and Hulk will be pleased about that. We're done, you know, we're in the studio doing interviews, and all of a sudden, you know, Hulk and I are planning a couple of things. You know, we're roommates, and we're saying, oh yeah, maybe tomorrow we should go there and do this. So Hulk says, let me go see the booking and see, yeah, maybe we can do that. So he goes over to the table, and, you know, Verne is kind of writing stuff down. So Hulk is looking over his head and looking at the dates, if we're off, we're on, and we're town. And so for some goofy reason, you know, Verne was like that, you know, you don't know where he picked stuff from and what went through his head. And you know, he looks at Hulk, says, hey, you know, Hulk story says, you think you're pretty tough, don't you? You know, and Hulk said, no. You know, start laughing. He goes, no, I never pretended to be tough. You know, I says, yeah. He says, how tough are you? He says, so everybody's looking, you know, so what's going on, you know. And so Hulk kind of, you know, Hulk doesn't know if Verne's joking or what, or ribbing, or. So finally, when he said that, you know, so Verne takes his glasses off. He says, hey, let's see, you know, how tough you are, you know. And man, everybody, silence, you know, went on. And then, you know, for some goofy reason, you know, Verne went for Hulk's leg, you know. And Hulk was like 320 at the time. I mean, you know, I mean, strong as an oak, you know. I mean, so when this old guy came in for that, you know, Hulk just put him in the front face lock, you know. He put him in that front face lock, man, and you know, and Verne was a great, you know, shorter in his days, you know. I mean, he was a, you know, NWA, you know, CP, you know, I mean, he's champion, amateur wrestling champion. But hey, you know, I mean, Hulk was 320, and the other guys, you know, I don't know what age he was at the time, but Hulk was just put in that front face lock, and he put him down. And it was the first time, you know, when like Verne was like, God, you know, it was like the promoter, you know, and Hulk held him there. He held him there, and then when Verne stopped, you know, then he let him go. And man, it was like such humiliation for him. It was like the first time, you know, one of the boys ever humiliated him in front of the other boys, you know. And so he got up, said, oh yeah, is that all you can do? And everybody started, oh man. He said, well, let's go to the barn tonight, you know, let's go to the barn, you know. And because Verne had a barn, you know, where he would stretch guys, you know. Mm-hmm. So it says, so Hulk said, fuck the barn, I don't need to go there, you know. It says, fuck it, leave me alone. And, you know, he walked off. And man, that was kind of the beginning of the end, you know, for Verne, where everybody was losing respect for him. And then when they, you know, and then the thing with Vince started, you know, and then he was losing it. He was starting to lose his grasp on it. People were kind of losing respect for this guy.
How did Verne change when AWA went national on ESPN?
Well, Verne had lost it by then. You know, I mean, it was just too much for him because he was trying to run, you know, because Verne had you know, the AWA, you know, was like a little organization. I mean, well-oiled machine. I mean, he knew everything. But when he went national, the thing that he should have done, like any big organization, you have to delegate. You know what I mean? You have to you know, you can't do everything by yourself. I mean, you can't overlook everything. And Verne was trying to overlook everything by himself. And of course, by doing that, you know, he was looking at these small things and yet missing these big things. You know, it's like ridiculous. You know, we all going, oh man, he's paying attention to little details like that, and then these things coming to him like an 18-wheeler and doesn't see it coming. So it was just too much for him nationally. You know, I mean, he tried. He had some good intention. You know, Verne is a guy that wanted the respect in the business and this and that, but time had just changed, and he just couldn't change with the times.
Memories on your series with Nick Bockwinkel?
Okay. Oh yeah, Nick. Oh man, Nick. I tell you what, he was a great. I had a lot of respect for Nick. What an athlete. What an athlete. A guy. I worked with him in his 40s, and I was like early 30s, man, in top shape, and this guy would go. This Nick, what an athlete. He could go and never say, look, Rick, take it easy. Maybe tonight. No tired. Never said it. He always worked as hard as he could. And in fact, I remember I just came in the AWA, so it's my first. And guess what? I come in the territory and I have to take Hulk's place because Hulk was in Japan and is in the main event against Nick, for the title. And he was put in Japan at the same time. There was a mess up in the booking. And I come in and I take, Hulk's place, oh man. So what a way to come in the territory, right? So everybody, all the boys, the fans, everybody's looking what you can do, and goddamn Nick, man, he's a smart old timer, want to teach me a few things. So first night I worked with him was in I think Winnipeg, I think. So I worked with him, and all of a sudden he calls me this shot right away in the match. He said headlock, he said okay, throw me the ropes, tackle, drop down, and watch the gut shot, So I tackle, drop down, and he goes and boom, and I mean he dug one in my stomach. I mean. I'm like this, and I'm nervous on top of that, and I can't breathe, So he got me off guard right away from the match, He had me where he wanted, So I thought to myself, well, maybe, just miscalculated, what happened. So the second night, we were working against in Denver, and, higher thing already, it's hard to breathe, So again, tackle, down, watch the gut shot, and tackle, and I mean, rough again. But I said, then from that second night, I said, you son of a bitch. I said, I'll be watching for you. So all the matches we had, him and I, we always kind of, it was like two rooster. I mean, we wouldn't let down, and we kind of try to blow each other up, and so I remember the first night, his last night that we worked together, we were in St. Louis. In St. Louis, the ring was like hard. I mean, hard was like, there's this room here. Mm-hmm. And I remember for the first time ever, Nick was 49 at the time. And he came to me and says, Rick, listen, this is me tonight, we'll take it easy a little bit, and this guy, man, had busted my eardrums and this and that. I said, you know what, Nick, now that you told me that, I'm going to go out there and work 3-4 times as hard that I would have, normally. It's you, son, it's your fault. All you've done to me. Tonight, get ready, you mother. And sure enough, when that night, we were tired. But I respect Nick. He was good for the business.
How did your title versus title match with Ric Flair come about, and memories of the match?
Okay, Rick, we're in Japan, and they decided to do AWA, NWA match. And I had met Rick before in '78. Never worked against him, but always watch his match, and a lot of respect for what he did in the ring, the way he did his craft, and also his personality. What a great guy! Always a great attitude, and always working hard, and never say anything. And I remember, because we compare our schedule, and one night there and one night there. And back then it was unheard of, because we always worked, nowadays, especially in the early 90s, in the 80s, it would be able and WWF, we were like really working like crazy. But back then in the 70s, late 70s and early 80s, and he'd be, look, I'm there. He's a hardworking guy. So, we went there to Japan, and I remember Verne telling me, I said, hey, you better look good, and all the Japanese, are, it's important that you make sure, he doesn't take over you so much. But I respected Rick. I knew Rick, would be there to make a match of it. And I remember we were both surprised because we had a reaction from the Japanese crowd that was unusual at that time, because they were kind of reserved, you'd work and you'd do moves. but we got reaction almost like in the States, and we felt great. And we had a really hell of a match. And from then on, we worked at a lot of places. And man, I really, really enjoyed working with Rick.